Hello viewers, welcome to Ekam Academy. As part of the concept of the day series, today we are going to discuss about an important topic in polity, that is national emergency. So we'll discuss all the important information related to national emergency in one video. So let us see first thing. Let us understand what is emergency. Emergency is something which is not normal. That means something is urgent that needs to be addressed. So what is urgent here? Sometimes when there is a threat to the country's security or sovereignty, President of India is empowered to issue some proclamation for control of that situation by issuing an order with the name Proclamation of Emergency under Article 352 of Indian Constitution. So that is what mentioned in the Constitution. There is no mention of the term national emergency directly. Instead, Constitution has mentioned it as Proclamation of National Emergency. Right? So then, second thing we have to understand is, in India, national emergency can be imposed on three grounds. So what are those three grounds? War, external aggression is the second ground, and third ground is armed rebellion. Okay, so armed rebellion. Right. So these are the three grounds on which national emergency can be imposed. But in case of a situation where national emergency was declared on the grounds of war or external aggression, then we call it as external emergency. External. But if it was imposed on the grounds of armed rebellion, then we call it as internal emergency. So in India, so far, 2 times external emergency was imposed at the time of Indo-China War, 1962, and then Indo-Pak War of 1971, which we also call it as Indo-Bangladesh War. And internal emergency was imposed once in India in 1975. Right? So now let us understand what is the procedure and who has the power to issue the emergency related notification. So the President of India, if he feels that there is a threat to the country's sovereignty and security, or before the situation can arise also, if he feels that there is a need, that means before the situation also, of the natural occurrence of that particular situation also, he can issue for the entire country or part of the country also. That is what you have to understand. And importantly, he can issue different notifications for different types of emergencies. That means already if one emergency is imposed in one particular region, and then for another region, he can issue a different proclamation of imposition of emergency as well. And 38th Amendment also has said that whatever the decision of the President of India to impose national emergency will not be, like you can say, it will not be accepted as a ground for judicial review. That means it is completely immune from judicial review. So these are certain things which were inserted by 38th Amendment, which is trying to increase the ambit of executive over the judiciary in terms of emergency aspects. Then what is the procedure? So here first we have to understand that original constitution has given 2 months of time to the proclamation of emergency to get approval from the parliament. But after emergency imposed in 1975, the misuse of emergency provisions also, 44th constitutional amendment in 1978 made it more rigid. So they said not in 2 months, it has to be approved within 1 month of time. That means both houses has to approve the emergency proclamation within 1 month of the time. That is one condition. Then after 44th constitutional amendment, return consent of all the cabinet ministers for imposition of emergency also have to be handed over to the President of India. That means not on just the advice of the Prime Minister, it cannot be imposed. No. So before 44th constitutional amendment, it was easy. So it was criticized that Indira Gandhi did not even inform his ministers, her ministers especially, and she just has called the President of India to impose the national emergency at that point of time. That is the reason 44th constitutional amendment has tightened the rules, saying that it has to be returned. Return means by signing the paper, they have to give it to the President of India. This is one condition. Then in the national emergency process, what is the majority that is required to be voted upon? It is a special majority by both the houses of parliament. Then if the houses of parliament are not in session, then within the 6 months of time, maximum time, they have to reassemble and they have to pass the resolutions independently. Then what generally happens after the national emergency is imposed? So we have to understand, once if the national emergency is imposed, there can also be the extension of term of Lok Sabha as well as the state assembly. That is one aspect. And then center-state relations also may change. That means Parliament can get extra power to enact laws with respect to stateless matters also. And it can also include aspects related to the executive domain. It can issue separate directions and directives also. At the same time, it can also alter the financial distribution of resources and revenues between the center and states. In this way, there will be differences in the center-state relations also. Then, will there be any effect on the fundamental rights? Means, yes. So, Article 358 talks about Article 19. So, whenever national emergency was imposed on the grounds of war or external aggression, Article 19 can be suspended. 6 freedoms under Article 19 and their enforcement also can be suspended, right? Only enforcement can be suspended. But under Article 359, other fundamental rights means which are related to Article 20 and Article 21, all other fundamental rights which are mentioned in the presidential order can be suspended. So we have to understand, in any emergency, Article 20 and 21 doesn't actually get suspended. So only 19 in the case of external emergency, but in the case of internal emergency, that means when it was imposed on the grounds of armed rebellion, so then it cannot be actually suspended. So this is a fundamental difference between 358 and 359. Then in a situation, for example, if there is an imposition of president rule, then imposition of national emergency, then who can take it back? That means again the President of India can revoke the proclamation of national emergency. But there is also an amendment that was passed in 1978 using 44th amendment, that in case if Lok Sabha members pass a bill with at least a simple majority asking for revocation of national emergency, then also it has to be revoked. That is also one condition. So generally during the imposition of national emergency, it has to be passed every 6 months. That means after 6 months, again periodic approval of the Parliament is important. But it can be extended for any number of years. There is no maximum limit, but every 6 months it has to get the Parliament approval. So this is a major thing you have to keep in mind with respect to the imposition of national emergency. What are its impacts and all other things. So let us see the practice question related to national emergency. So first, which of the following statements are correct regarding the proclamation of national emergency under Article 352? It can be declared only with the written recommendation of the Council of Ministers. Second, President must get the parliamentary approval of the proclamation within 1 month. So among these, which you chose the correct one, try to let me know try to answer in the comment section. Then today, as part of the concept of the day series, we have discussed about an important concept called national emergency and what are important provisions and what is the procedure for imposition and revocation of national emergency, and in which situations and instances we already have imposed, how many times we have imposed, and all other aspects related to this topic were discussed in this video. If you like the video and found informative, let me know in the comment section. Thanks for joining. All the very best.